Hello, religion thinkers. Today I'd like to talk about Hinduism. And sometimes before we understand what a religion means, we have to know what a religion is. And if you don't know about Hinduism, I'm going to try to answer a few questions for you today. We'll talk about the foundations of Hinduism, its beginning. We'll talk about some important texts of Hinduism and the deities of Hinduism. We'll also talk about some of its core beliefs and a little bit about the caste system. So this will be a brief introduction to Hinduism. Please stay tuned. Now, the first part in our discussion about Hinduism is, does it have a founder? And the answer to that really is no. There is no formal founder of Hinduism. It's a religion dating back some 3.5 millennia to about 1500, 1700 BCE. At that time, it was thought that there was an Indo-Aryan invasion. A group of Indo-Aryans from Central Asia came in, invaded India, and they brought with them the ancient Vedic text, the ancient Vedic religion, which is thought to be a basis of Hinduism today. Now, there are other theories about Hinduism where it may have began. A competing theory, an alternative theory, which feeds into this, is the Harappan civilization, which also existed on the border of what is today India and Pakistan, a very ancient civilization which also disappeared around the same time, between 1500 and 1700 years BCE. So we're talking about 3.5 centuries of history of Hinduism. So with a brief answer to the question about the foundation of Hinduism, let's move on to talk about some of its deities, and these can be bewildering and complex. It is said that there are thousands of deities across India, but there are a few that are most prominent or most significant and may come to your attention again and again. There is a trinity of gods: Brahma, the creator god; Vishnu, a preserver and protector god; and Shiva, a god of destruction, but not destruction in a bad way, because in Hinduism, death brings a new end and a new cycle of reincarnation. So those are 3 deities: Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva. We also have Durga, the demon slayer, Kali, and many other deities in the Hindu pantheon. Now, this can seem very overwhelming and complex, and we see it as formally polytheistic, having many, many gods. But Hindus themselves may often view themselves as monotheistic, as believing in one god. Now, how is that possible, you may wonder? I like to think of Hinduism like this. Think of one great ocean, and that great oceanic essence is Brahman, this oceanic essence of the divine. Now, in any individual wave, you may say one wave rolls up on the seaside, and that is the wave of Vishnu. The next wave comes up, and that is the wave of Shiva, and then Durga, and Kali, or Saraswati. Each wave is a manifestation of the divine, a representation of the divine for Hinduism, but does not exhaustively describe the whole of the ocean behind it. It is like a single manifestation, a single facet of an inexhaustibly huge and immense concept, Brahman. Now, this is a very different way than Muslims have considered religion. Muslims consider God to be abstract, and you cannot depict God at all. Hindus celebrate the depiction of the divine inexhaustibly, with many different idols, many different images, and you can relate to this, that, or the other one, thinking that it is a singular expression of a common divine essence, Brahman. There are many, many more deities in Hinduism, and we could talk about it for a long time, but this is intended to be a short video, so let's move on to the texts. Is there a central Hindu Bible? And the answer to that is no, there is not. There are a collection of texts, the ancient and the most revered being the Vedas, the 4 Vedas, which may go back to the time of the Indo-Aryan invasions and were written down later, but date back perhaps to this period 1500 to 1700 BCE, when it is thought this Vedic culture may have begun. Again, written down in successive centuries. After the Vedas, you have the Upanishads, many different sacred writings of Hinduism, which introduce and develop the notions of reincarnation, and there are some 108 different Upanishads. And we also have sacred texts like the Bhagavad Gita. Now, the Bhagavad Gita is probably a later text, but it is so cherished amongst Hindus that it really does speak to some of the central values of Hinduism. The Bhagavad Gita takes place on a battlefield where Arjuna is confronting his duty to fight, and he is told by his divine charioteer, Krishna, who is an incarnation of Vishnu, that he must go do his duty and fight. Now, I did another video on the Bhagavad Gita, so I recommend your attention to that there. It is one of the most important and sacred texts in Hinduism, but there is no one text that describes it all. If there were a first text to begin with, yes, certainly I would recommend reading the Bhagavad Gita first to whet your appetite as far as an introduction to Hinduism. And then, what do Hindus believe? Well, the ancient Vedic period, there may have been more a conception of the afterlife. This seems to be the case. The notion of reincarnation seems to have developed and accrued to the Hindu tradition, maybe developing in the period of the Upanishads. And so this is where Hindus have sort of an idea of spiritual Olympics, as I call them. You're always trying to get closer to God. Hindus do believe there's a soul, and the common name for the soul is the Atman. But the soul we aren't aware of our own divine essence. There is this avidya, or ignorance, clouding our mind, obscuring our awareness of the divine within. So the point in Hinduism is to attain unity with the realization of the soul, to attain moksha, this inner spiritual realization, which will then allow you to escape the cycle of reincarnation altogether. So this is why I kind of like to call it a spiritual Olympics. If you don't get it right in this lifetime, you may have a chance to get it right in the next lifetime, or the lifetime after that. It's sort of like a spiritual hurdle, and you get ever more opportunities to leap higher, to get closer to God, and attain moksha, the realization of the divine within. And then in Hinduism, we have the caste system. The caste system began a long time ago. I think there are many points of development of the caste system. And classically, we have one tale of this ancient man-god Purusha from which all the castes emerge. The Brahmins, who are the priests and the spokesmen for the divine, they are said to emerge from the mouth of Purusha. The Kshatriyas, who are the warriors, the administrators, those who are supposed to protect the society, they emerge from the arms of Purusha, the strength of society. Then we have below them the Vaishyas, the sort of middle caste professionals, those who are involved in a trade. The Vaishyas emerge from the thighs of Purusha. They are the economic basis, you could say, of society. And then you have the Shudras, the servants, the working classes. They are the feet of Purusha. They are the very base of this sort of divine man being. Notice the untouchables, as we know them, are not formally a part of that ancient tale of Purusha. The untouchables regarded to be outcasts, to be polluted. In India today, it is, of course, constitutionally illegal to discriminate on the basis of caste. That doesn't mean it still doesn't happen at times. We know that discrimination is something that is slow to go away, even when you make the force of law to try and meet it. But the caste system is very ancient in Hinduism, and it still has a lot of force today. There may be less caste awareness than there was in the past, but caste still has remained a very significant and defining aspect of India and Hindu civilization as such. So that's a very brief, cursory overview of Hinduism. A lot more that could be said about that, but that whets your appetite, at least for a beginning introduction to what Hinduism is. Thanks for watching this video, and please look forward to the next video.